The wind bites at your face just thinking about it. Scott Mann's 2022 American thriller, Fall, is less a traditional narrative and more a masterclass in sustained, stomach-dropping anxiety, leveraging one of cinema's oldest fears, acrophobia, to a dizzying, unprecedented degree. Forget your average horror flick with jump scares. This film delivers a psychological and physical gauntlet that leaves your palms sweating and your muscles tense for its entire runtime. It's a high-wire act of filmmaking, pun absolutely intended. The setup is deceptively simple, almost a nod to survival thrillers of the past. Two young women, Becky and Hunter, decide to climb a decommissioned, 2,000-foot tall television tower, the fictional B67 TV Tower in the desolate Californian desert. The climb itself, filmed with breathtaking, often terrifying realism, is driven by a fractured emotional landscape. Becky is still reeling a year after her husband, Dan, died in a climbing accident, drowning her grief in alcohol and isolation. Hunter, her vibrant, thrill-seeking best friend and a popular vlogger, sees this impossible ascent as a form of exposure therapy, a viral-worthy challenge to yank Becky out of her destructive spiral. The genius of Fall lies not in the if, but the how of their predicament. They reach the minuscule platform at the very top, a rusted, precarious circle of metal that seems to defy gravity. It's a moment of false triumph, instantly shattered. The corroded ladder they used to ascend detaches and crashes down, leaving them stranded on a platform barely big enough to stand on, a half-mile above the desert floor. The vast, empty expanse of the sky is above them. The unforgiving, silent earth is below. There is no middle ground. From this point on, the film transforms into a claustrophobic epic. The B67 Tower isn't just a set, it becomes a third, malevolent character. Every squeak of the metal, every gust of wind, every shot of the rusty bolts holding the structure together is a source of nerve-shattering tension. The director, Mann, made the ingenious decision to film many of the scenes on a purpose-built structure, a fraction of the full height but still high enough to capture authentic fear from the actors, then seamlessly blended these with stunning, convincing visual effects. The result is a visceral realism that Hollywood often sacrifices for spectacle. You feel the isolation, the sheer, crushing scale of their predicament. The narrative shifts from an adventure gone wrong to a desperate, agonizing series of survival attempts. Every resource becomes a precious commodity, a backpack with a dwindling water supply, a fully charged phone with no signal, a drone with a fragile battery. The problem-solving is not merely plot contrivance, it is a meticulous, step-by-step examination of two people using their wits and what little they have to defy the impossible. They try to drop the phone in a shoe to send a message. They try to charge the phone using the tower's light fixture. They attempt to climb down the external antenna. Each setback is a hammer blow, not just to their physical state but to their dwindling hope. The emotional core of the film hinges on the dynamic between Becky and Hunter. Becky is the reluctant survivor, fueled initially by a raw, existential despair. Hunter is the pragmatic, sometimes recklessly optimistic one, driven by a need to document, to perform, even in the face of death. This relationship, tested to its absolute breaking point, is where the script finds its depth. As their situation grows bleaker, secrets are revealed. The film introduces a shocking twist that recontextualizes their relationship and Dan's death, elevating the survival struggle from a purely physical fight to a moral and emotional reckoning. The twist, that Hunter and Dan had an affair, serves a dual purpose. On one hand, it's a piece of narrative melodrama to heighten the conflict. On the other, perched 2,000 feet up, it becomes a devastating, inescapable confrontation. There's no running, no hiding, only the brutal honesty of their shared predicament and the immediate threat of death. It forces Becky to choose between the bitterness of betrayal and the necessity of immediate, shared survival. Fall excels in its relentless refusal to offer easy solutions. When a pair of vultures begin circling, they aren't merely a symbol of impending death, they are a physical threat. When two hikers pass by far below, their shouts are swallowed by the wind and distance. The film is a masterclass in anticlimax, in the crushing reality that sometimes, in the face of nature's indifference, your best efforts are simply not enough. The film's most memorable sequence involves a perilous crawl down the external structure to the satellite dish below to retrieve the lost backpack, a moment of pure, undiluted vertigo. Later, Becky makes a final, desperate gambit. She places the charged phone inside Dan's sock, puts it inside Hunter's body, climbs down the fragile antenna array, and drops the body and the phone onto the tiny dish below to get a signal. This act, grisly and ingenious, is the film's ultimate expression of love, betrayal, and survival fused into one desperate move. It's a literal use of the body as a message delivery system, a dark, primal communication with the world below. Ultimately, Fall is a triumph of technical filmmaking paired with brutal psychological minimalism. It doesn't rely on CGI spectacle, it relies on the universal, primal fear of heights in isolation. It strips its characters bare, both literally and emotionally, leaving them to grapple not just with the threat of the fall, but with the weight of their own lives and decisions. It is a lean, mean, 107-minute injection of pure, unadulterated terror that reminds the audience that sometimes, the greatest monsters are simply the forces of gravity and nature. The final moments, when rescue is finally achieved, feel less like a victory and more like an exhausted, profound surrender to safety. This is a movie that sticks with you, a constant, nagging sensation of height and fragility that lingers long after the credits roll. It's an unlikely masterpiece of the genre, proving that sometimes, all you need for an unforgettable thriller is two characters, a rusty ladder, and a very, very long way down.